What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millzy. I got the hometown commander, and we are back today for the final unveiling of my Tyranids custom proxy deck. This includes all of the cards from the precon, as well as all of the custom proxies that I have kind of curated and made between a community that I belong to on Reddit, some art that I used that some other people used, as well as making my own. If you're interested in using any of the proxies in this video for yourself, down the link to the description, there's going to be a link to my Google Drive with all of the proxies that I made for the deck, some that are in the deck and some that didn't make it in the deck, as well as a link to how to print them out, as well as the deck list down in the description. This is my deck list updated as of Frexo LV1. Very excited to talk about some new things, but let's get into it. We're going to start off with all of the creatures that are in the deck from the precon. Biophagus, Nexus, acting a little way like our Mana Dorks. Biophagus can tap for mana, and if we spend that mana on a creature, it comes with an extra +1/+1 counter. Nexus allows our basic lands to tap for 2 colorless mana. Next, we get into the Tyranid creatures that aren't X spells. We have Winged Hive Tyrant, giving all of our creatures that have counters on them flying and haste. We have Calamitous, giving all of our creatures that have +1/+1 counters on them, +1/+1 for each counter. Old One Eye, which is going to come down and give us a token, as well as give all of our other creatures trample, and then we can pay some cards to get him back. Hierophant Biotitan, our big boy in the deck. We can remove +1/+1 counters from creatures we control to reduce the cost of the spell and get him down for even cheaper. And then the newest addition, the Red Terror, because this combos with a new card from first LV1. We'll talk about it when we get to it. This has been a red source. You control deals damage to 1 or more permanents and or players. Put a +1/+1 counter on the Red Terror. And getting into the massive amount of X spells, Spore Assist comes in to get ups to X basic land cards, where X is of course what we pay into it, and then shuffle. Termagant Swarm, when it dies, we get 1/1 creature tokens equal to its power. Turvagon comes in, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, we create that many 1/1 creature tokens. Zoanthrope comes in and deals X damage to a target, has flying at ward 2. Moloch comes in and fights up to 1 target creature an opponent controls. Ravener, when enters the battlefield, target creature attacks target opponent this turn. If able, it has flash, so we can do that. Harmagant Horde lets us pay 2 and a green and return it from the graveyard back to our hand to cast again. Tyrant Guard, whenever we can sacrifice and give all other creatures with counters on them hexproof and destructible on turn. That's kind of great because it kind of acts as another copy of like that heroic intervention type ability in our deck. And Aberrant. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, destroy target artifact or enchantment that player controls. And then Broodlord, whenever it enters the battlefield, we distribute X amount of those counters between other creatures we control, which is pretty cool. Getting into the non-Tyranid cards, now all of these have custom arts for them. First off, we have Runati, Behemoth Caller here. I think Runati fits the deck really well because it says any creature spell with mana value 5 or greater, that creature enters the battlefield with X additional +1/+1 counters on it, where X is its mana value -4. A lot of these X spells we're trying to get out as high as possible, and creatures with 3 or more +1/+1 counters on them have haste. So we kind of have another haste enabler. Salvala, kind of like our secondary commander in the deck, can tap for a ton of mana in any color that we want, where X is the greatest power among creatures we control. The bigger the creatures, the more mana we can get. And then Herald of the Secret Streams, allowing all of our creatures with +1/+1 counters on them not to be blocked. All right, getting into, and then the final one is Vorinclex, Monstrous Raider, doubling the amount of counters we put on our permanents. And then we're playing 5 non-Tyranid X spells. Benevolent Hydra, which acts as a little mini Hardened Scales when it's down, and we can remove counters, put them on other creatures we control, which kind of helps with these cards that give haste or different abilities when +1/+1 counters on things. Genesis Hydra, which can come down and get us a lot of the different enchantments we have in the deck, and we'll talk about those in a second. Hydrate Krasis draws us some cards and gains us some life. Voracious Hydra can come in and double the counters on it, or fight, which isn't a bad ability. And then Shivan Devastator comes down with haste, and that makes it pretty helpful, especially when you're slamming down really big creatures. As far as cards from the deck for sorceries, we have Cultivate, Farseek, Rampant Growth, as far as ramp goes. Finishing out the ramp, we have Nature's Lore, 3 visits, and then our big Awake in the Woods to make a bunch of Forest Dryad creature tokens. We are also playing Jessica's Will. Jessica's Will can get us both mana and cards off the top of our library that we can play. We're playing Uncage the Menagerie for just a little bit of search, allowing us for X equals 2 to go get those X creature spells that have 2 CMC or 1 or whatever it may be. This is pretty cool with Magus's tap to copy it, because we can put 2 into this and go get 4 2 CMC creatures to our hand, which is most of the grid ones in our deck. As far as spell finishers, we have Crackle with Power and Jaya's Immolating Inferno, and then Triumph of the Hordes and Finale of Devastation. So these 3 are our main big X spell finishers. If we have them, Finale can go get something like Vorinclex, which comes down, that has haste and can get, it gives the buff and haste to all of our creatures. Jaya's Immolating Inferno and Crack with Power are just going to spread a ton of damage out across our opponents. We're not playing any of the instants came in the deck, but we do have a good little suite of things for removal. We got Beast Within and Reality Shift to take care of things. We have Fierce Guardianship to help protect our board. Heroic Intervention just as another piece to protect our board. Cyclonic Rift, and then a new card added in, March of Swirling Mist, to hopefully phase our creatures out to protect them from board wipes or whatever may be threatening our creatures. As far as enchantments go, we have a lot of really important things enchantments go, but we are playing the Hardened Scales and Shadow in the Warp that came in the deck, because I think both of these are important. Hardened Scales does help just a little teeny bit over time, and I think that it becomes really important. We're playing the 2 auras that combo with both our Commander and Selvala in Freed from the Real and Penance Aura. Can allow them to tap and untap for mana. For Selvala, that allows us to make infinite mana, but for Magus, Lucea, Kane, both of these will just allow us to keep copying those spells and make more and more copies as we net the colorless mana. We're playing Mystic Remora and Rhystic Study for some draw. We want to get into the cards that we need and get into them quickly, as we are in X spell decks. We want to get as much mana as we can. We're also playing Garruk's Uprising, which can draw us cards, but also gives all of our creatures trample. We're playing Sylvan Library to get those extra cards at the start of turn. Concordant Crossroads to just flat give all creatures haste, but more often than not to give our creatures haste. Rhythm of the Wild, give all creatures the choice between our non-creatures the choice between a +1/+1 counter and haste. Most of the time we're going to choose haste because they're going to come in with those +1/+1 counters. But that big part there, not creature spells we control can't be countered. We'll stop our opponents from that. We're playing the pair of Simic and Tamer Ascendancy. Tamer Ascendancy giving all of our creatures haste, but drawing us card when those creatures come in. And Simic Ascendancy is an alternate win con for the counters that we put on our creatures. And then the big 2, Doubling Season to double those counters, and then Unbound Flourishing to double the X when we cast permanent spells with X, and then whenever we cast instant or sorcery with X, we copy it. And that's pretty great as well, depending on what we're playing. Unbound Flourishing is probably my favorite enchantment in the deck, because I think it just completely turns on everything you already want to do in the deck and make it worse. And then the newest card we're playing is All Will Be One from Phyrexia. All Will Be One, because it combos with the Red Terror. It says whenever you put 1 or more counters on permanent or player, All Will Be One deals that much damage to target opponent, creature and opponent controls, or planeswalker opponent controls. Now the Red Terror, if I can find it quickly, says that whenever a red source you control deals damage to 1 or more permanents or players, you put a counter on it. So what this will do is, as long as we can get a red source to deal damage in any way possible, this will start a loop we can step through to deal the damage to our opponents. Because this is a red source that's dealing damage to our opponents, that puts a counter on the Terror, which activates this back again, and this is going to loop through and hopefully kill all of our opponents at once. Getting to our artifacts, lots of fun stuff. We're playing the Arcane Signet and the Soul Ring that came in the deck, but we're adding to it a Lithform Engine. I really like Lithform Engine, copying either Magus's ability for only 2 mana, which just makes those things we're casting next even better. 3 mana can copy an instant or sorcery if we need to copy ramp or other things, or removal, and 4 can just straight copy those permanent spells that we're casting if we have nothing less. Mana Crypt, Great card it is, searchable off of our Urza Saga that we're playing. The Great Henge gives our creatures coming in an extra +1/+1 counter, and then the Ozolith to kind of corral those +1/+1 counters and make sure that we retain them. We get them. With the lands, I did actually make my own basic lands. They are based off of the lands that already exist in the deck, but I did make them full art, mountain, island, and forest. And we are playing more basic lands in this deck because of that Nexus that allows our basic lands to tap for double colorless. We're actually using more of them than you'd expect. As far as our gold lands, we're playing Cavernous Souls. Most of the creatures in our deck are Tyranids, so we actually can still use Cavernous Souls to a good success, but of course there are some creatures in our deck that are not. City of Brass, Command Tower, and Mana Confluence getting us any color we want. Exotic Orchard getting us any color of a land our opponents could produce. Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, going to tap for the amount of color mana equal to our devotion. This deck plays a lot of permanents, and we're going to have a lot of devotion to random colors at any time. So Nykthos does a very good job at that. We're playing our Triumph and Catch Your Own Triumph. We're playing Treasure Vault. The best part about Magus Tyranids is it does let us double the treasure token ability of Treasure Vault. So the great part is we can absolutely take advantage of Treasure Vault here. And then we, of course, are playing Urza Saga to go get Soul Ring, the Ozolith, Mana Crypt. There's plenty of targets off of Urza Saga that we can go get. Getting into the lands, we have our fetches, all with 40k themed art. We have our shocks, all with 40k themed art. Because we're playing the basics and the shocks and our Triumph, we're playing the check lands, all with some Tyranid themes art. We are playing the one-off Cinderglade from the deck, just because we are still primarily in red and green, and we're going to be playing a lot of basics, so Cinderglade's more often than not going to come in untapped. We're playing the Castle Garenbrig. Beseiju, a great utility land, whether it comes in as a land or we use it to remove things. This is one of my favorite pieces of removal for combos and things like that involve artifacts, because we can do this at instant speed. And then Ancient Tomb, which is just going to help us when we're playing those big X spells. I made a lot more cards than what we saw here. When I first originally built the deck, I basically made Warhammer versions of any card I could think of that I might want to play into this deck, including a couple more Hydras, plenty of other spells. But as I tested this deck out, this was the list that I continued to like. And now with these First All-Be-One updates, I think the deck will just get a little bit more consistent. Adding Mystic Remora and the All-Be-One combo will just get the deck to be a little bit better. And I finally added Finale Devastation, which was not in there before, because more often than not, I found I needed another big finisher that wasn't just damage. And I think Finale of Devastation does it. I actually also added March of Swirling Mist this time around, because I think phasing things out will end up protecting the things that are really important and keep us committed to the board and keep us moving as far as that goes. Other thing I wanted to show off is one of my favorite things about this deck are the Dragon Shield sleeves that I have them in, the Christmas Dragon. One of my favorite sleeves that I own as far as the brushed art Dragon sleeves go, and they fit this deck so well, and just a little bit of fun when we look at the deck. But like I said, this is my conclusion to my time talking about the Tyranids. There's some people watching the channel who said, Millzy, stop talking about the Tyranid deck. And this is the last time we will see the Tyranid deck for a while. But I wanted to show off the physical proxies that I made. I have some more decks that I have ideas for. If you want to see more of these custom proxies, I would love to show them for you in the future. Just let me know in the comments that you want to see more. I've got a couple more ideas, including one that I haven't shown off yet, and that will be coming up very soon. In the next couple weeks, you'll get to see that one. But for now, I'm excited to have a deck that fits thematically, and like I said, I want to finish up the other 3 decks, to build the other 3 decks in their full Warhammer 40k art form, make competitive decks that I want to play for all 4 of these 40k precons. But the first one for me was Teamer. It's my favorite color combination as far as 3 colors go, and so I had to have some fun with it. Let me know, guys, what you think of the Tyranid list down in the comments. Please give me a like, drop a subscribe if you want to see more Commander content. I am doing my best to keep it moving for you guys, keep more content coming, and really just brew life's cares away. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.